Ryan, good to meet you. Thanks for taking the time for chatting.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, man. Good to meet you.
Um, well, I probably represent, or the people that listen to anything I have to say, are from a stage in your life that is in your past, but is, as one of my favorite movies says, the past is never the past. So here we are. And I'm going to try to talk to you about this movie without spoiling anything, which I think is the biggest challenge for some of the questions I've got.
Yeah,
But maybe first off, just want to say thanks for it. Really enjoyed it. It was fun, and I think pressing in on some really interesting questions. And
thanks.
for me, one of the most interesting ones that came away with and wanted to ask you about is most of your films, if not all of them, are addressed to a particular time and place in society.
Mhm.
I wonder if you can tell me what is the moment we're in that this movie is speaking to?
Well, it's interesting because in a way, the part of it that's speaking directly to my experience, both personally and also socially and politically with faith and with Christianity, is maybe the least. And I'll explain this. I was going to say is maybe the least of the moment right now, timely in my head. To me, the things that the movie is getting into and the questions it's wrestling in terms of faith are things that I at least can trace back to when I was, yeah, a deep Christian in my childhood, teenage years, early 20s. It's a lot of the same. That stuff hasn't really changed. The thing that feels very of the moment, and this does apply to Christianity, but I think it applies to every single aspect of society right now, is just the movie in a more broad sense is a reaction to the us against them mentality that a lot of us have dug into in this moment. And the movie shows how that can sometimes manifest in the world of the church. But for me, I was personally just drawing from, I think it's pretty universal right now, and I self-indict with that very personally. I mean, I'm on my social media feed scrolling through, getting angry at them with a capital T, whoever they are, just during the day. And for me, kind of the bedrock I have of the antidote to that is the well of what I grew up with, which are the teachings of Christ, which are the hardest thing that we're called to do, which is love your enemy, and the thing that I feel like I personally need the most right now. So that's maybe for me the most time, even though the movie references current event stuff, to me that's the thing that's actually timely about it.
Yeah, I think what I appreciate, and maybe you answered it already. My next question was really the visual that you kind of give us early on,
Mm-hmm.
is a comparison between having your fists up
Mm-hmm.
versus having your arms spread wide.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm hearing you say is that is maybe both your critique of and hope for a Christianity in the world right now. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely, and not just Christianity. I think we all need that. We all
Mhm.
need that right now. And I mean, yeah, and I guess I also, I mean, I don't, I definitely, to me, it's less an indictment of Christianity not doing that. Although I think all groups are not doing that. To me, it's more looking towards the hope of Christianity of all things teaches it should guide us towards that generous spirit, I think.
Well, as an insider right now, I can talk bad about my own tribe, and I do lament with you that I agree that that posture is what will be the only thing that will allow us to move forward.
Mhm.
What's hypocritical about Christianity is we claim that we're doing it, right? That's one of the problems. If you're not a part of that, then I go, okay, maybe, you do fight, right? You do have an us versus them. And it is a struggle, I think, internally within the Christian tradition anyway, where, Les, you're saying, like, we have these resources that push us in one direction, and yet we still fall victim to this sort of us versus them, which kind of gets to the title that I wanted to ask you about. Now, again, no spoilers, because hopefully people watch this before they watch the movie. But Wake Up Dead Man, obviously a pretty deeply religious sort of image. But I wonder, as you think, whether it's a character in the film, whether it's you, whether it's society, who is the dead man that needs awakening?
I mean, that is an incredibly good question. Whether that gets to the quick of it, it's because there is obviously a little literal reference. It's more spoilery in the movie, but the bigger thing to me is, for me myself, it was, and again, I'm gonna as a because I hope this is the spirit of the movie, that it's not specifically me standing on the outside indicting any specific group. So I'm going to aim it right back at myself, which is really where it comes from. It's me wanting exactly what we just talked about, the notion of putting your dukes down and opening your arms in that genuine spirit of, which I think is at the heart of Christ's teachings. It's wanting that to come back to life. It's wanting that to rise back up out of this moment that we're in, when it's when it sometimes feels like it's 6 feet under right now. And so it's that in the movie, it's calling on that in the church, and more broadly for me, it's calling on that in myself, I think.
Well, it reminds me of this really famous psalm. You probably know it well. And the psalmist starts going on about how I align myself with God and God will punish my enemies. And the psalmist starts going like, yes, smite those. I want to smite those who you smite and judge those you judge. And a mentor of mine says, but there's right in the middle this uh-oh moment. And it shifts and it goes, search me and know me. Look into my heart and know that I'm actually complicit. And so I think you're right. This film, in no way, and this is maybe I want to ask you a little bit about this too, is it's very easy today to make, and rightly so, either pretty cynical or critical or almost caricatured movies about religion in general, religious people. But that is not what you walk away with this movie at all. It seems very exactly what you're describing of like there are issues, but also I got to look inside. And I wonder how you get to that point of, given the rest of the media landscape, like how do you write, produce a film that doesn't go the cynical route and stays kind of in that more nuanced area?
What I mean, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. I mean, for me, it starts and ends with just the movie coming out of my own personal experience, as opposed to standing on the outside talking about something. Even though I don't consider myself a Christian anymore, I was my relationship with Christ was how I framed the world around me through my childhood, through my teenage years, into my early 20s, in that formative time when I was really becoming a young man. And I was I wasn't Catholic, I was evangelical. And I was a youth group kid. And and also and as I think as a kid growing up, and in that church, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, I think that when you're a believer, you don't handle faith with kid gloves, when you're inside of it. And I think from the outside, there can sometimes be this notion that Christians can get very sanctimonious, and I guess we can, but when you're inside it, I remember I was a teenager. There was a lot of, farting in church. And so I guess not being afraid to actually get my hands on the topic and really explore it. At the same time, I also have vivid memories when I was a young man, feeling the caricature of what you're talking about in the media in terms of how Christians are shown, and very much sometimes a feeling of, I can call my sister ugly, but you can't. I can't.
Yeah.
I understand those feelings too. So I guess all of that just blends into, for me, it was really important that even though I wanted this movie to be a conversation about a multifaceted kind of perspective on the whole topic of faith. I knew it wasn't going to be just a faith-based movie, and it also wasn't going to be just a cynical kind of
Yeah.
takedown of it. Um, but I wanted to approach the whole thing with a generous spirit of somebody who's been there and who still treasures a lot of things. Also holds, also has conflicting feelings and criticism of, but also treasures many things from that time in my life. So I guess that's kind of where it comes from me, is just starting from the personal, starting from a place of that was of what my experience was with the church.
You know, I I have a psychology background, but I don't like to psychoanalyze filmmakers.
I
But
have a
having you
feeling you're
say that,
about to psychoanalyze me.
that's right. That's right. Well, I do wonder, as any of us watching it, or you writing it, or directing it, how who we identify with, or who's the me at different points, in there. And I noticed compared to, and it's been a little bit since I've seen the other Knives Out series, but the Benoit Blanc character seems in this one to have a kind of, now he's obviously an explicit atheist. We get that set up very early on, like I'm not a believer, whatever. Um, but I would describe him in this film as having a kind of like pastoral gentleness in comparison to some of the others, where he's navigating a very different kind of terrain and a different kind of people. And I wonder, as if one is that true, and do you see in some ways, is it because he was interacting with priests and parishioners? Is there another reason? Do you see yourself almost in that role of going, I'm now the intellectual atheist, but I can acknowledge there's a sacredness to this space that I want to at least acknowledge while I'm here.
Well, I think to psychoanalyze myself,
Mhm.
so I apologize in advance
It's
because
fine.
this is never a good idea.
Mhm.
I would put it more as, I mean, I do think Blanc tends to have, especially when he is partnering up with somebody he likes, which he likes Father Judd,
Yeah.
tends to have that kind of gentle Southern nature to him. To me, though, as opposed to for me, who I identify with is for that. There's a first scene where Blanc and Father Judd meet in a church and they have a conversation, and they both kind of lay out.
Hmm.
Blanc very directly lays out kind of his cynicism of the church, and then Judd, I think, with a generous spirit, answers him back in a way that makes them realize they're kind of meeting as equals. I have both of them inside me. And for me, it's not that I'm represented by one or the other. What was interesting to me about and why I wanted to dig into this is to put both of those perspectives, which I genuinely hold at the same time inside me, and let them start talking. And also to have a movie where they can go through and form kind of a bond throughout the course of it, and with back and forths and with disagreements and everything, and at the end still be on the opposite side of that particular fence, but have
Hmm.
learned things from each other and have
Hmm.
formed this genuine friendship. And so, as somebody who, and I think we all do to varying degrees, has disbelief and belief always in conversation inside me, that was the more interesting thing as opposed to identifying with one or the other.
Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. It's
There
pretty,
you go. That's
pretty
it.
good.
That's it.
Um, well, one other sort of question along those lines that I think you're also getting at, if those two are kind of your, yin and yang of you. You then have the Josh Brolin priest character, and I find it really interesting. So it's a murder mystery. You have Blanc, who's coming in trying to pursue the truth and is trying to uncover that, discover it. Then you have these really interesting, what I'll put quote unquote confessionals and confessional moments, and it's never entirely clear: is this actual confession? Is it not? Is it, how do you think, in terms of the way that you were writing the characters and the story itself, the way that discovered or revealed truth compares to these supposed confessions of truth?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I mean, having not grown up Catholic, so having not grown up in the confessional myself, giving that caveat, uh, I mean, I think the notion of confession is used in different ways throughout the movie, and everything from Monsignor Wicks, who's Josh Brolin's character, who uses it in kind of a pointed, cynical way to mess with Josh O'Connor when he first comes in, because he suspects he's coming in as an interloper. Um, but all the way through, there is truth revealed throughout confession at different points in the movie as well. And there's truth revealed that then gets used by the other party to bad ends. So there's a broad spectrum of kind of how confession is dealt with. To me, I mean, ultimately, um, yeah, ultimately, the truth the movie gets at is not the truth that people want to tell, because The truth is the truth they don't want to tell that eventually comes to the surface, which is very much in the murder mystery kind of realm of things. But there's also, I mean, the other thing that was interesting to me is the correlation between the world, kind of the world of the church and the genre of the murder mystery. In some ways, there's a murder that happens, there's an original sin that creates moral chaos, and then the detective kind of descends into the story and takes confession in a way by questioning all the suspects and sorts out Father Judd, part of what he has to deal with is kind of just as antithetical to his purpose on this world as what he thinks Father or Monsignor Wicks is saying. It's almost more dangerous that he gets pulled into this gamified version of us versus them that Blanc represents, so that the murder mystery itself represents the wanting to find the guilty and judge them in order to get yourself off the hook. And building that into the second half was, for me, almost the more interesting thing.
Interesting. Yeah, it is that coupling of the murder mystery with the sort of church intrigue and politics really just makes it fun, makes it nuanced and sort of multi-layered in ways that you don't usually get, and especially in a Knives Out movie, which I thought was really refreshing. Maybe last question, just the one that I ask most people when I'm chatting with them, and I use the word spiritual in this, and you can think of it as broadly as you would like. And you might have already sort of answered it, so maybe see if you want to reframe it or just say the same thing again. But if you're going to say for viewers about to watch this, and it comes out on the 12th, I believe, on Netflix, what would you say after they watch it and they're hanging out over Christmas with their friends? What is the primary spiritual conversation that the film's inviting us to have?
Oh boy, that's a very good question. Um, well, I think the movie. I mean, I guess the true answer is I as opposed to prescribing what I want that conversation to be, I cannot wait to see what the conversations are going to be that I never could have anticipated. And and what excites me about that is I think, or at least I hope, that the movie is not something that aims for a specific lesson that it's teaching or a moral. It's something that is a multifaceted exploration of this topic. And that's not to say it's diffused or doesn't have a point of view. I think it does, but hopefully it talks about it with enough complexity that I really think it's going to. I don't know. I'm not specifically hoping that the conversations end up being about one thing or the other. I hope that it just addresses this in a way that gets people talking about their own experience, and everyone's going to be coming at it from a different place. And so I feel like I'm talking around the answer, but the reality is that's the truth. Is I'm mostly excited to see the conversations I never could have anticipated that are going to spring up.
Oh, well, that's lovely. I mean, that's classic artist answer. I mean, not going to close off meaning for anybody, but that's actually what, if it was pedantic or something like that, it wouldn't be fun, it wouldn't be good, and I wouldn't be talking to you. So, I really, really appreciate your time, and thanks a lot, just for your time and energy and thoughtfulness on this. At least for the folks that I navigate or traffic in, I think they'll really appreciate it, and especially for the holidays, it'll be a fun treat for them all. So good luck with it, and thanks a bunch for joining me today.
Thanks, Heather. I appreciate it.